So we just got a great tone with a single SM57 in the first live room. So now we're going to try a multitude of different dual mic setups. For this, I'm going to change head and also change room. So I'm going to be using the Mesa Boogie Dual Rectifier into the 2-Rock 2x12 in the ISO booth behind me. Just to let you guys know as well, I thought that this amp setup needed some pedals in front of the head, so I've put my pedals in front of it. I'll get into more detail about what I'm doing with the pedals later on. For our first dual mic setup, I'm going to be using an SM57 with an SE Electronics Voodoo VR1 ribbon mic. And these are going to be going into the API 3124 preamps. I really like the Voodoo VR1 from SE Electronics. It's tighter in the low end than the Royal 121. It also is more hi-fi, so it's really good for capturing those distorted electric guitars. Combined with the Shure SM57, you get this really thick but aggressive sounding distorted tone that I really like. Let's see what we can achieve in the other room. So now I'm back in the control room and I'm going to turn the amp up louder and I'm going to get everything set to how I want it. But just so you know, what was I listening for in the headphones in the ISO booth? So when it comes to dual mic setups, it's all about the phase relationship between the two mics. So using headphones and having both mics at the same volume, you'll be able to hear when they lock phase. When they lock phase, the tone will become very, very direct and in your face. And you'll instantly be able to hear an on-phase tone versus an off-phase tone. Earlier in the course, I showed you guys some examples of in-phase tones and out-of-phase tones. So refresh yourself on what those sound like, just so that you know when the scenario comes up for you that you've got the tone correct. Now I'm going to get my tone up to tracking volume. So to do that, I'm going to turn my guitar amplifier up and turn the pads on my APIs. So now that I'm happy with that tone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record it into my DAW. And I'm going to compare it to our tone earlier with the single SM57. Let's get on it. So now I'm going to set up the tracks for the other side. I'm going to add in 2 audio tracks, 2 mono tracks. I'm just setting up these 2 tracks for the for the left-hand side now. So I'm just going to drag these up to the top. Need to relabel them because I accidentally labeled it right when it was meant to be left. Right. Now what I need to do is it's the far one, this one, which is going through the reamp, solo that one. Check to see if it's coming through. Okay, yep. So now we're going to do the second pass with this one. And then we have DR far left and DR far right to do just for this one little section here. And I think a little bit later on as well for the chorus. Yeah, so 2 sections. So yeah, let's start recording this side. So on my tracks, that's soloed. Let's go. So now I've got left and right sides of my dual mic set up, recording into my DAW. There's a couple of things that I wanted to cover with you guys. Now, with the 2-Rock 2x12, I could not see through the grill of the cab. So I couldn't see where the cone is. So I let my ears guide me to where the mic position was going to be. It's particularly handy to learn what in phase and out phase is in case you come across this scenario. Right, so now let's go on to the individual mic sounds so you can see where they're coming from. So this is the SM57 by itself. Good mid-range, a little spiky in the top end, but the bottom end is solid as well. So the angle of that is probably about a 20-degree off axis, pointing what sounds like towards the cone, and that's why the top end's quite spiky. So let's have a listen to the ribbon by itself now. Ribbons generally tend to be quite a bit duller, but judging by the top end of that as well, it seems to be pointing almost at the center of the cone as well. They both have a complementary character to each other. Let's have a listen to them together. The only thing that we need to do is control the top end a little bit, which can be easily solved by a little bit of EQ. So let's have a listen to what our dual mic sounds like in the mix. So I'm just going to turn up the volume a little bit so it's more at the level we want to hear. So I'm going to turn this up to 4.8 for all of them. They're actually a tiny little bit loud, so I'm just going to reduce this down to 4 dB for all of them. And we're going to compare it to what we got yesterday with the single mic. Right, let's have a listen to the single mic. So the single mic is quite a bit more aggressive than the dual mic. But as we use different takes for the dual mic and the single mic, let's see what they sound like together. They sound pretty great together, to be honest, to my ears anyway. I'm going to check the phase now of the single mic from the JP2C into the Mesa 4x12 cab, because as you can see here, this is our dual mic left side, which I've soloed just here. And then this is the left side of the single mic. And it seems like the phase is ever so slightly out. It doesn't need moving. But it looks like the phase might be out. So I'm just going to flip the phase on this channel and see what happens. It's not out of phase. So that's good news. Let's have a listen to what all of them sound like together. I think the two tones complement each other quite well. With the dual rectifier, with the dual mic setup that we just did, the tone is quite dark, whereas the single mic that we got from the JP2C is very aggressive. With the correct balance in between the two amplifiers and a little bit of EQ on the high end, I can get this guitar tone to work very, very well in a mix, as can be demonstrated just by the no EQ'd guitars in the mix right now. And now let's move on to our next multi-mic setup. I think this time we're going to look at an SM57 with an Audix D6.